Sarah and Jake had everything they wanted. They had a popular YouTube channel where they shared videos of their two little boys. People loved watching their kids grow up, and soon they had millions of followers. After saving enough money, they bought their dream house, a big, old home in a quiet neighborhood. Excited to leave their small rented apartment, they moved in, not knowing what the house was hiding. At first, everything seemed perfect. The kids had their own rooms, and there was a big backyard for them to play in, which meant even more fun videos for YouTube. But after a week, both Sarah and Jake started feeling uneasy. The house felt strange, but they couldn't figure out why. There were small things. Cold air coming from nowhere, odd sounds at night, but they brushed it off. They thought it was just because the house was old and they were still getting used to it. Jake, always thinking about their videos, decided to install cameras around the house. This way, they could record their kids' fun moments without having to follow them around with a camera all day. They planned to look at the footage later and pick out the best clips to upload online. That's when the weird things really started happening. Doors began slamming on their own, but when they checked, they were closed or open just like they left them. A terrible smell, like something rotting, filled the house, but they couldn't find where it was coming from. Lights flickered, the TV turned on and off by itself, and appliances acted strangely. They thought the house might have bad wiring and didn't worry too much. One night, while Sarah was editing some videos, she saw something that made her stop cold. In a video of their boys playing in the living room, there was a shadowy figure standing behind them. It was faint, but clearly there. A pale figure with dark, empty eyes, staring at the children. Her heart pounded. She rewound the video, thinking it must be a camera glitch, but the figure was still there. Jake. Sarah called, her voice shaking. Jake rushed in, and Sarah showed him the video. They watched it together, neither of them saying a word as the ghostly figure appeared behind their children and then disappeared. "We have to leave now," Jake said, eyes wide with fear. That same night, they packed some clothes and took their kids to stay at Jake's cousin's house. At first, they didn't tell anyone what they had seen, worried people would think they were crazy. But after a few days, they couldn't hold it in anymore. When they told Jake's cousin, one of the neighbors overheard and told them something terrifying. "You bought the house on Pine Street, didn't you?" the old neighbor asked. "Did anyone tell you what happened there?" Sarah and Jake exchanged nervous looks. "No." "What happened?" Jake asked quietly. The neighbor told them the house's dark secret. Years ago, a family lived there, a mother, father, and their two children. One night, someone broke in, and the whole family was murdered. The police said it was a robbery gone wrong. Ever since then, no one could live in the house for more than a month. Everyone who tried said the same thing. The ghosts of the family still lived there. They weren't violent, but they didn't want anyone else calling the house their own. "They just want to be left alone," the neighbor said softly. "No one stays there for long. I'm surprised you did." Jake and Sarah knew what they had to do. The house was never really theirs. It belonged to the family that had died there, and no one else could ever make it their home. A few weeks later, they put the house up for sale. They moved back into a rented apartment, not wanting to spend another night in that haunted house. But as they signed the papers, they both knew that whoever bought the house next would face the same things they did. One night, as Jake locked the door of their new place, he turned to Sarah. "Do you think we should warn the next owners?" Sarah shook her head. "It won't matter. That house, it'll never belong to anyone but them." And they both knew she was right. The house on Pine Street wasn't for the living, it belonged to the dead.
If you like this video, subscribe our channel.